You think it's a no, it's not, is it? It's not that far. And when his foot hits the ground, his back foot just barely came off the back, the ground in the back. You guys see that? Okay. You want to launch yourself a lot farther than that. So you're in the air essentially. Your feet aren't moving, but your body's moving forward, and that's what's important. Nobody cares how fast your feet are moving. You care how fast you get down to the end of the track. Okay. So you're going to kind of try to launch yourself a little bit harder on that first step. The fastest people in the world, and you'll see it in a second, on their very first step, they travel 1.5 meters. Okay, what that means is if my hands are on this line, so in a track start, my first step doesn't land until out about like here. And you're sort of launching yourself and your foot lands out there. Most of us right now, your foot's landing like here. And good would be if we can get it to land out here. Okay, so this is more what we're trying to do. We're not really worried about getting that far, but the idea is to launch yourself that far. Everybody with me on that? Okay. All right, then the second step, what we're looking for is, again, trying to get your knee up high, which his knee right now, in relationship to the other one, is not that high. He started standing up, so he's getting a little bit more upright instead of staying low and driving backwards. And when your foot hits the ground, it should be backwards as far as you can. Like that would be better than straight down, because the farther the angle is on it, the farther you're going to move forward. Does that make sense? So we're trying to push backwards down in the ground. So on those first few steps, leaning forward, knees up, driving backwards is what we're mainly looking for. Does that make sense? Okay. Let's watch this quick video so you can see it, and then we're going to have everybody start to try it. What's that? You seen this? Okay. So what I want you to look at, this is slow motion, and I want you to just watch, like when he takes off and his feet come off the ground, like he keeps going. Most of us don't, so we're going to try to learn that lesson from him. And I know we don't have track blocks and all that, and this is a pro, but we're just trying to learn from him. Watch his front leg too. Look at how horizontal it is. I mean, it's almost like parallel to the ground right there. Oh, he's got blocks, so it makes a difference, but you get the idea. Okay, his knee comes up high. His foot's off the block. Oh, he's still going, he's still going, he's still going, he's still going. Holy crap. You guys see that? Okay. Now that's in slow motion. You wouldn't normally see it like that, but you guys get the idea? Okay, so here's what we're going to do now. With all these things in mind, we are going to stand up. We're just going to be doing this from a standing position. We're all going to stand up at a line. Don't move yet. We're going to lean forward, okay? And I want to see you drive your head and shoulders out as far as you can, get your knee up as high as you can, and jump in the air and try to hit the ground backwards. You're only going to take 2 steps.
Here comes the PCast. Welcome, coaches, parents, players, athletes alike. We're excited to be here with you once again for an incredibly informational show. I think tonight our guest is going to blow your minds. We're really excited to bring on Coach Kielbaso to the show tonight. We've had a couple opportunities to interact with him and see him speak and really set the foundation for a lot of the stuff that we do. So we're really privileged and honored that he's joining us tonight.
Our guests our viewers are honored to have the guests that we have on today. Like you said, a lot of what we do here through opportunities of getting to meet Jim and have conversations with Jim and, buying his programs, looking over his programs, understanding and learning his programs is the foundation of what we do. So yeah,
it's going to be exciting. And I think he's got some big news to share with everybody as well. So we're going to definitely get to that. But first, we want to check out some around the world sports. And we thought since we're going to be talking football speed. We're going to be talking 40 speed. We're going to be talking a lot of NFL and some football attributes that we would show a quick clip. And I don't know if you guys have seen this or not, but to me, this like literally blows my mind. I can't even comprehend some of the stuff. So I'm going to show you guys a real quick clip here. It doesn't last too long, so don't blink. Make sure you catch all this. Yeah, you didn't blink, hopefully, did you?
So that was Tyreek Hill and Markel Hardman, 2 receivers for the Kansas City Chiefs, 2 of Patrick Mahomes' toys,
Yeah, for lack of a better term, right?
2 of the fastest guys in NFL. I mean, we'll let Jim talk about the speed stuff, but them guys are fast.
Yeah, incredibly fast. And I think you watch Tyreek Hill run. He doesn't run like a track guy. He runs like a football guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to dive into, and we got a little bit of research done here before we invite Jim right on the show. We want to talk about the fastest 40s of all time. And I didn't look into any of this. I had Frank was doing a little bit of that research, but anybody out there right now, if you have a quick comment about who you think has the fastest 40 time recorded in the NFL, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts or some of your guesses. We're not doing trivia today, but if you have any thoughts or guesses on the fastest 40 time ever in the NFL, that'd be awesome to hear. We'll do the list from the bottom up, and then we can get to the top. The one thing I do know is that Bo Jackson claims to have a sub 4.2 40. So with never documented, never recorded apparently, but a 4.13 was.
That's what he said he ran. Yeah. So just back onto what you said about Tyreek Hill not running like a track guy. So there was actually a little thing on Instagram about a couple weeks ago where did you see the video where he raced Terrell Owens and gave him the 10-yard head start? Yeah. So Marquise Goodwin, who's another receiver in NFL, I believe he's still with San Francisco 49ers. He's a track guy. He runs he ran track. He's a track guy. So he commented on that video that you've seen of them 2 racing, and he said, "Oh, with form like that, I can beat them all day long." So hopefully we see that one day.
Yeah, well, that's interesting, and maybe Jim will be able to bring up some ideas as to track stars versus NFL stars. And I know dealing with a lot of hockey players. I mean, hockey players don't run well. We tell them that all the time. You guys run like hockey players.
Yeah. Well, you've been working with some pros lately, so you got to see with your own eyes.
Yeah, and I tell them, like, you guys suck at running. You need to get better at running. I'm like, why? We're on skates.
Yeah,
but
right.
There's a transfer. There's a transition there. There's certainly some ability to be able to sprint that can correlate to being on the ice too. Mm-hmm. Oh, look at this. Josh Coney, 3.9. Grant Spence, thanks for tuning in. That is definitely not the right answer. Josh Coney was a guy that I used to coach in midget hockey. I'm not sure if 3.9
was he fast?
He was not fast at all. Not fast at all. Grant, thanks for tuning in, man. I appreciate the viewership. Why don't we go over this list real quick, Frank?
So I just wrote names down that there's a few names on the sheet that I didn't even know myself, and I follow the NFL pretty deep. So I started at everything's in the 4.2s. So we have Jacoby Ford ran a 4.27. He was drafted by the Oakland Raiders, and then Champ Bailey. I thought I'd jot him down. He ran a 4.27 at the combine.
I love Champ in Washington, not so much Champ in Denver. But
well, didn't he make his career in Denver?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Marquise Goodwin, who I just spoke about, ran a 4.27, being a track guy. If you guys followed the combine this year, Henry Ruggs, he was drafted in the first round by Oakland. He ran a 4.26.
That guy's from Alabama, right?
Yes, Alabama running back or Alabama receiver. Sorry, yep. Dree Archer a couple years ago ran a 4.26, and then everybody remembers Chris Johnson. He had that 2,000-yard season. He ran a 4.24, and then I believe the fastest recording was John Ross at a 4.22.
Wow,
that's fast.
That's exceptional.
It's crazy.
I can barely run 10 meters in 4.22.
We just went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys in the difference of 0.5 milliseconds.
Yeah, and that matters in terms of draft status, though. Mm-hmm. I think that's the NFL really weighs heavily upon some of the combine results, and I think we've got a perfect specialist to welcome to the show tonight that's going to discuss some of these combine maybe tricks of the trade or ways to get faster fairly quickly. Maybe some small tips that a lot of our viewers hopefully are going to appreciate. So I'm going to ditch this, and without further ado, we're going to welcome Coach Jim to the show. Hey, Coach.
Hey, Jim.
What's happening, guys?
How are you?
Hey, I'm pretty good. And thanks for having me on. It's good to see you guys in person here.
Yeah, you too. You too. It's been a little while. We're really pleased that you accepted the invite to come join us and share some expertise with us. So thank you for coming on. I know you've been busy with some moving and some other changes in your career path. So I know your time is very valuable. We really appreciate you spending some of that with us.
Well, your intro was so good that the only way to go is down at this point. So probably just close it out now. I'm going to thank you guys for having me on.
We'll just shut her down. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, appreciate it. Have a good night.
Play some pre-recordings from here on out. We're good to go. Well, Jim, I wanted to dive into this. I think there's some conflict for me personally. I know that you've attended both Michigan and Michigan State, and you live in Michigan.
We're going right into this, huh?
Like huge, yeah, right into it.
This is the most important part of this.
This is the most important part. I couldn't wait to get to this. Actually, no. Before we do that, what do you think about Tyreek Hill's running form?
Oh, you know what? There's certain people that they run so fast that you feel like, why should I even analyze this? Because am I really going to get Tyreek Hill any faster than he is? And I kind of learned that lesson. This was, I don't know, like 25 years ago. There was a kid who was a running back at Michigan named Dennis Washington, and he was huge. He probably weighed like 250 pounds and he would run like the 100 meters in like darn near like 10 seconds. And like he was just flying at that size. But he ran with like super bow-legged, he's bow-legged and all beefy, but he was just so strong. And I thought, why should we change this guy? Like the only thing we can do is hurt him by trying to change, what he does, because he's already so fast and athletic. And I think there's a lot of things that we can do to help athletes, especially, that have poor mechanics, but and Tyreek Hill is so fast, I'm not gonna do his mechanics at all.
Yeah, we're not gonna judge him too much for a 4.2 or whatever he got into, right?
Yeah. Well, it was funny, Jim, when we were we kind of make up these questions and we kind of divide them up which way we're going to go with it. And as soon as we were looking at these earlier today, Bob goes, "I'm asking the first question." So go ahead and get to it.
Yeah, Bob. Well, I'm a huge Michigan fan.
Me as well.
And I obviously I hate Sparty. Hopefully my friend Mike Dixon's watching tonight, because him and I, anytime there's a Michigan State game, basketball, women's volleyball, football, you name it, we're like betting on it, right? It's like constant wager. I'm like, hey man, who you got tonight? Kind of like in jest, right? But so you went to both Michigan and Michigan State. Can you give us a little background in your education real quick? And then question at the end I want to know is, who do you root for now? Are you a Wolverine fan or a Spartan fan?
Well, let's start off by saying, and you can infer whatever you want from all this. So I grew up close enough that I could walk to Michigan State. My parents both taught at Michigan State. My sister went to Michigan State. I didn't even apply anywhere else, because like my whole life growing up, it was like, I'm going to Michigan State. And, I just, with my parents there and getting the tuition break, because they were both teachers, like I didn't even think twice. Like I didn't like I was going to go there. As I was growing up, the greatest basketball player of all time, who is clearly Magic Johnson, was my idol. And, I remember like going to games in the old arena, Jennison Fieldhouse, and getting to watch him play. And I actually, as a little kid, would like write him letters to like come over to my house for like a cookout. And my mom like just recently told me she never actually sent the messages. Yeah, like I was able to go to all those games, and I was was a diehard Spartan fan my whole life. I actually thought growing up, because when you live right in that little bubble, like I only knew one other person that liked Michigan, and I remember his name's Jay Ojeda, an awesome kid, but like I didn't understand why one person liked Michigan at the time, and I thought like Michigan's got to be this evil empire, like these people, they must be like bad people over there. Why would anyone choose to go to school there? Well, when I decided to go to grad school, I realized like, well, there were several factors involved in going to Michigan for grad school. But when I got there, I was able to intern with their strength and conditioning coach, Mike Gittleson. And I quickly realized, I'm still young, I was only like 22 or something at the time. And I realized really quickly, these guys, like this is not where the rivalry is. The rivalry is not in the kids. The kids could have chosen anywhere, and they actually, a lot of them like each other and they know each other. The rivalry is with the fans who aren't out on the field. And of course, it's a huge rivalry and, they want to beat each other and everything. But I realized they're just awesome kids at both schools, and the coaches are awesome. And, and the whole, everything about it is great. And now that I've done combine prep stuff, there's been a lot of situations where I'll have Michigan and Michigan State guys training next to each other. And it's really cool to see, because almost across the board, at first they might not know what to say to each other, and then they start hanging out with each other and they realize like we could have been best friends if we would have made a different decision, So I feel totally different about the rivalry now. And I root more for guys now, and right. I can't really say this publicly because people might take it, people may take it the wrong way. But I mean, I grew up in Michigan State, so I usually root for Michigan State. That was my heart. But my friends that I went to Michigan State with, anytime I say good things about Michigan, or I'm like happy for Michigan or for the guys at Michigan, they get so mad at me and like call me a traitor and like, how can you're on the dark side and all that kind of stuff. But I don't really see it that way too much anymore. So I'm sorry. I know you guys are Michigan fans. I kind of am more of a Sparty fan, but I love the Michigan kids just as much too.
Fair enough.
Well, it's funny you say that, because honestly, when Michigan State does well, like I'm extremely happy for my buddy, right? Like it's not a incredibly immature combat that we have. It's like, you know what? Hey, State did well. Great. As long as they're not playing Wolverines, perfect. Like,
yeah. Well, now I know who to start texting and jabbing with and giving crap to during games if one team is beating the other. I'll make sure that
there'll be a little back and forth there for sure. I won't mind jousting with you a little bit.
Jim, he's a sore loser. So if you get a chance, just please. I'll probably be sitting beside him, so I'll get to feel the emotion of him having to read that message. I'll love it. Because we'll be rooting for the same team. I'm just not a sore loser.
Okay, all right, fair enough. You just want him to lose, huh?
Well, yeah, I like to see it on his face a little bit, especially after this summer in golf. It'll be great.
When Bob struggles, you smile, huh?
Exactly.
Right. There's something wrong with that. Something innately wrong with that. But
you tend to smile quite a bit.
That's okay. That's fair enough. Fair enough.
Especially on the golf course.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So you want to dive in a little bit with your education between Michigan and Michigan State?
Sure. So it was called exercise science at Michigan State at the time. Now it's kinesiology. And it was a really good program. But at the time, I wanted to be a strength coach. And now we're talking about like the mid to late 90s. And I remember I went to an advisor and said that I wanted to do an independent study on strength and conditioning coaching and the profession so that I could learn more about it. And I remember the professor saying, sure, that sounds really good, but I can't help you. I don't really know anything about it. And at the time, the strength coach at Michigan State wasn't wasn't somebody that was like open to talking, and he really wasn't like a professional like you see most of the strength coaches now. So it was just a really new field. So I really didn't get much help, and it's kind of weird because it wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme of things. But back in the mid '90s, there wasn't a lot of information. I got some great info from a mentor of mine, Walt Reynolds, he was a 7-foot high jumper at Oregon, and he was just an awesome guy, and he was a really good strength coach who's still doing it. Well, when I got to Michigan, I was the School of Kinesiology, so I was studying more of the same kind of stuff, and I told one of the advisors that I really wanted to meet the strength coach at Michigan because he was a legend. Mike Gittleson was one of the first strength coaches ever in America. And
he presented, not to interrupt, he presented at the last IYCA summit about neck strength.
Yeah.
And he was definitely a legend. Like,
he's total legend, and he's a great coach. And it was funny because it's kind of like this at a lot of places. The advisor said, I don't know if you really want to talk to him. A lot of the people in the department don't really agree with what he does, and he's not real he's not real cool with the academic side of things. And so I was like, that makes me want to meet this guy even more.
Right.
So I don't know if I shared this story with you guys at any time, but I decided, like, I'm just going to go meet this guy. I'm going to go find him in the football building. And I got up to the football building, and there was like this security desk, and they stopped me, and they were like, are you with the football team? And I didn't really know what to say, so I just kind of walked away. So I waited a few days, and I kind of then knew the system, and I decided, okay, I'm going to wait for a bunch of football guys to be walking through, and I'm going to blend in with them. And I just kind of waved, and they waved, and I went in. These guys all went different ways, and here I am standing like in this hallway, and I had no idea where to go. And I finally figured out where the weight room is. I opened this door. I walk in, I'm kind of looking around, and I couldn't even see where it came from. But from the other side of the room, I heard this like, "Hey, what are you doing in here? What do you want?" And it turned out it was Mike Gittleson, and he was pretty mad that I had found my way in there. And to make a long story short, he grilled me. I mean, grilled me with the craziest questions. I wasn't prepared for it. I probably looked like an idiot. But by the end of it, he said, "You know what, you can do an internship here, but you have to take my class as well as do all the hours and the internship stuff." I was like, that's even better. Like, I can take a class, learn everything from you, and get to do all this. But he knew I was from Michigan State, my undergrad. And we'd be in class, and like, teachers will ask questions, and they'll say, they'll ask a question and pause, and nobody in college answers. So then like, everybody just kind of sits there. Well, when he would ask a question, if nobody asked it, he would like be right in my face, and he'd be like, "Mr. Michigan State," and I wore a green. It was a green sweatshirt into the weight room one day. And it wasn't a Michigan State sweatshirt. It was just a Nike green plain sweatshirt. And man, before I got like 5 steps into the weight room, the GAs like were running up to me. They're like, take that off. You can't wear that color in here. And I had to take it all off and everything. And it was pretty funny. And they still do that to this day. I was wearing red and black stuff that were our colors of the training center when I was training guys for a combine a few years ago. And one of the players was like, "Dude, take that off. You can't wear that building."
Maize and blue only.
That's it.
Yeah. Maize blue. I guess black might work, or gray. Yeah, it was pretty serious. But
you have the same rules in your living room, don't you?
Yeah. Well, we had an athlete come in from another training facility in our community, and he was wearing the other training facility's shirt as he walked in to our facility for the first time. And I was like, "Bro, you're killing me. here. And I grabbed a shirt off the shelf for him and threw it on. I was like, put that on.
What a smart play with that kid, though. He got a free shirt out of the deal.
Yeah, I know. I was surprised I didn't see a bunch of other kids come the next day with like the other facility on their jersey. Like, oh, we get free Peak shirts if we wear shirts.
You remember how like he didn't even like it didn't even resonate to me that he was just like, oh,
it's
just a shirt.
My laundry pile.
Well, kids,
no, get that off.
kids don't get it though. That's what's funny. Like I noticed the same thing, and there's not like we have such loyalty about certain things that we would never do that. But a lot of kids like they don't get it and they don't care and they're just like, hey, I got a shirt, so I'm going to wear it around.
Yeah.
That's it. So Jim, my question is like, you're at the pinnacle of strength and conditioning. At what point, or was there maybe a moment in your life, or what made you want to become a strength and conditioning coach? Where did that passion come from?
Coach Mike, obviously.
Well,
yeah.
I guess so.
Well, I don't know if there was like one exact moment. I remember when I was in, kind of like what sparked a lot of this for me was when I was I was probably like a sophomore or junior in high school. And one of my friends like was really into lifting weights and we all laughed at him because back in the 80s, like not that many people in high school were lifting weights. So we would kind of laugh at him. And I decided that as a gag gift for Christmas, I was going to buy him some like Muscle and Fitness and Flex magazines. So I had them, and I just remember one night before I gave them to him, I was sitting in my room and I started reading some of the articles, and I was like, "Oh man, this stuff is really interesting." And I just kept reading, and now it was probably a bunch of garbage. I don't really remember, but it was fascinating to me. And I remember that by the time Christmas rolled around, I asked my parents to buy me a weight set, and it was one of those like it was like a hollow barbell, and the weights were like plastic over cement, and it probably didn't weigh that much. And my dad was super into like making me not want to do things that I was into just so I'd like move on to the next thing. So he didn't buy me a bench. So I took a picnic table and I took the bench of the picnic table and I wrapped like blankets around it. So I wasn't laying on the wood, and I was like doing bench press on a picnic table bench and doing curls and thinking I was, into all that kind of stuff. And it just kind of like, it made me want to learn more about it. And I really, really, that's all I could think about after that. I was like always writing programs, and I still have like up on my shelf stuff that like notes from when I was like a teenager wanting to like get into this profession and like writing down my goals and everything. And then when I was in college, it switched more into like the movement kind of stuff that I really got into. And my major was kinesiology, but my minor was dance. And so I was in this dance class, and it was about the notation of dance. So like music, you can write music, with notes. Well, there's a system of writing movement called labanotation. So that's how they can take ballets like Swan Lake and stuff and have other people do the same dances, in different parts of the world. It's actually written out like music. And as I was learning this, and I was terrible at it, but as I was learning it, I realized like, if we can write down like where people's limbs are, then we can figure out how to teach them how to do things better. And as I was doing my internships, and I had a couple of them, like learning about biomechanics and everything, it really started fascinating me that we could teach people how to move differently, and that will make them more efficient at what they're trying to do, which will then increase their speed or their power output or whatever it is. And I just like started like down that path. I just couldn't get enough of that. And that is exactly what led me to writing my first book about speed mechanics. Mm-hmm. It's called Speed and Agility Revolution. And the tagline on it was movement training for athletic success. And that was like in 2005, I think. And I remember Gary Gray. Do you guys know Gary Gray?
Absolutely.
Gary was at the time telling me, he's like, so you have to figure out like what's different about what you're doing and like have a tagline, because he had the whole 3D program, and he had kind of like made it where everything 3D was about Gary Gray, and he was like, so what's different? And I was explaining the movement training, like I was calling it movement training, and he said, you need to make everybody think of you when they think of movement training. Well, I completely missed that, because I don't think anybody me with that term, because movement training got completely changed into like FMS and like
Cook style.
What's that?
Like Gray Cook stuff, right? Like Gray Cook is like the movement guy.
Yeah.
Right. And that kind of movement to me is like totally different than the movement that I'm talking about. They're talking about, I would call it more like in place movement. And yes, it's movement. I'm talking about like how you run and how you cut and jump and all those things. But you know, I totally didn't get any of that. They definitely captured that, which is great for them. But like that side of things just fascinated me, that we could be better at teaching people how to move. And you guys do a lot of that kind of stuff too. I know these days. That to me is like a huge part of this whole process. So that's kind of a long-winded way of like talking about how I got into that stuff.
Yeah. So you've written a few books here. We got like this one, The Ultimate Speed and Agility. This is second edition. So is this a remnant of your first book, or is this literally just the second edition of Ultimate Speed and Agility?
Yes. So the first edition was Speed and Agility Revolution. And I decided that I wanted to update it because there was a lot that needed to be updated. Well, when I went to the publisher, they were like, yeah, you need to change the name of this and change the cover, because I thought Speed and Agility Revolution sounded really cool. And I was put in my place really quickly. He was like, yeah, that's kind of dumb. You need to change that, and you know, and all this stuff. So that's where that book came from.
You've worked with, and there's a laundry list of NFLers and colleges, universities, professional athletes that you've had the opportunity and the privilege to try to make better. I want to pick your brain on what you think the most important, or maybe there's a few most important aspects of taking that 99% athlete, because I know a lot of the guys that come to you, guys and girls that come to you, are pretty elite athletes in most respects. How do you take a 99% athlete and make them all, say, 100% athlete? How do you help them gain that slight edge that's going to get them from a 4.28 to a 4.22, or you know, that slim margin of excellence that's required to move on to maybe the next level?
That's an awesome question, and I wish there was one answer for every person, but I think it's, you know, a lot of it comes down to caring enough to figure out what that person needs and what their strengths are, and not neglecting their strengths, you know, because they're already really good athletes, and not trying to turn them into something that they're not. Basically just trying to get a feel for them and enhancing who they are rather than trying to change them. And I've had a bunch of people, you know, who they'll try other training methods, and it feels like kind of awkward or foreign to them. And what I guess I like to do is try to get the best out of them by figuring out what they need, what they like, what they don't like, what they struggle with, and what they really want out of whatever the training is, and then kind of just making it their own process so that they are actively engaged in it and wanting to be part of it. To me, like, if an athlete really wants to get better, you can help them a lot more than if, you know, they're just coming to you and they're expecting you to, like, you know, sprinkle magic dust or wave a wand over them. Like that to me is where you see a lot of the hokey stuff that is on the internet of, like, you know, balancing tricks and throwing things around and stuff that's like, it's like not really, that has nothing to do with the sport. It's like they're just trying to get athletes to be able to not do something and then saying, oh, you should be able to do that. When in reality, it's like, okay, figure out what the athlete needs, what they're going to have to do, and then, what the gap is there, and help them find it so that they want to get better at it and they want to work towards that. And so I guess a lot of it, comes from the neck up, is kind of, getting to know them, becoming not their friend, but like, get them to trust you, that you are really trying to help them get where they need to be. And to me, the only way you can get somebody to trust you is by like actually caring, and really wanting them to get where they need to be. And that takes a little bit of time.
Do you find that, sorry, Bob, do you find that a little bit easier now? I mean, your track record kind of speaks for itself at this point. So do you find, do you find it a little bit easier with athletes now in your career with the track record you have, that they buy into you a little bit easier now? Or do you still find you got to prove yourself, or prove that caring factor to them?
That's a really good question. I think it maybe a little bit more, because a lot of the people that I work with now are more like referrals to me. But I realized a while ago, and it wasn't that long ago, I wish I would have recognized it before, that there are going to be certain athletes that just jive with you and you jive with them. Yeah. And those are the people that you want to work with. And I used to get really caught up in like, oh, well, why did this guy go somewhere else, to train? And I kind of realized after a while that if somebody doesn't want, like if they're not attracted to what I'm doing, it probably wouldn't have worked out anyway, and I wouldn't have liked them, and they may not have liked what I was doing. So some of it is, you kind of create your own attraction, and they, they can feel what's the right place for them. So when guys will come in, or agents will have me talk to them about what we're going to be doing, I feel like, you can kind of get a feel for like, is this going to work or not? And yeah, I want everybody to train with me, because I believe in my heart that I can help them, and, that I'm the right fit. But some people just aren't there. That's not what they want at the time. Maybe they want to have their asses kissed, or they want to be on Miami Beach at night, and Metro Detroit is not Miami Beach. Especially in January. So, it has to be the right person. So yeah, I think sometimes you still do have to kind of prove yourself. And I think today in some ways it's easier, because like you said, there's a track record. In other ways, like with social media, if somebody has, 100,000 followers, kids look at that person as, well, that person is right. Like that's the right thing to do. And versus, I mean, you could have somebody that's a PhD and a world-class scientist and doesn't have any followers. Well, kids think, well, that guy's they don't know anything. So
talking about that today.
We literally just had this conversation half an hour before this podcast started. What you just said.
I was actually listening to you guys.
You must have been. That's exactly what we said. And I said, because you just put the post out, I said, click on the comments and look how many blue stars there are beside the names of people that commented on your post there. And I said, that should legitimize somebody right there, not the number of total followers. The amount of quality followers that you have and the people that actually follow you should tell you the story. Not if people just look at the number, they don't care about who the person is, But when you start digging into the people that are actually following you, it's like, okay, who is this guy? He's pretty legit, And then it's like, but it's not 200,000. Where realistically, you go click on that 200,000 per follower person, and it's like, yeah, you start seeing all those weird balancing acts and like all this stuff. Does that really translate back to making a faster 40 time, or does that really translate back to making him a better football player? Sure, we can argue about that. I don't know. I'd say no myself, but at the same time, it's like, how in the heck does that guy got 300,000 followers and everybody seems to go to the gym and do all that crazy stuff when you walk into your gym and you're going through, some pretty basic functional movement stuff. But now go look at the guy that just ran the 40 and got drafted in whatever round, that guy doing all that balancing act, didn't even get an invite to the 40, you know?
Yeah.
But it's funny how that we literally just spoke about that.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, that's the world we live in. And
Yep.
I guess we can try to fight it, but I mean, that's just how it is.
Yeah. Now, when you put posts like this up, I think I stole this off your social media. I know that's got a couple of blue guys there.
Yeah.
You know, a little green sandwich, middle of Devin Funchess. What did Devin Funchess run for a 40? Do you remember what his time was?
Well, he ran at the combine. He ran, I think it was like a high 4.7.
Yeah.
And he didn't train with me for the combine. He went down to an unknown place, an unnamed place in Florida, and he ran that time. When he came back, I was in the building training the other guys that came out that year, and I saw him kind of like doing stuff by himself. And this is a good example of like kind of being able to like work with somebody, you know, in their head. And so I waited until we took a break, and I walked over when no one else could hear what I was saying. And I basically just told him, like, dude, I know you're faster than what you did, and I know you're really pissed off, and you're probably down right now, because he was over there like practicing stuff, but not really doing a whole lot. And I said, I watched you do the 40. I can help you. Like, if you want my help, just let me know. And he was like, yeah, I'm good. Well, the next day, you know, he found me, and he was like, can you help me with this stuff? And I realized really quickly that he was like overthinking stuff, and he was so tense, and he had, you know, they kept him up all night, and he was freaking out. And so I said, just show me what you're doing here. And he said, well, I have a 16-step process that I'm supposed to use to like get in my 40 stance. And I said, okay, just stop. Just forget that. Like, you need to just get in a comfortable position, put your hand down, and then be Devin Funchess. And we started working on that. And he actually changed my coaching approach also, because I used to like have more of a, like, okay, this is how everybody's going to, you know, get in their stance for a 40. And he really made me realize, you know what, let's just figure out what's comfortable for people, and then work on, you know, on it from there. And he ran, I think it was a 4.4 at his pro day, which is, you know, a few weeks after the combine. And he was ecstatic, you know, of course. And he, you know, he's had a great career, and well, he's opting out this year, as a lot of guys are. But
yeah,
that helped me a lot too. So as much as he, you know, as I was able to help him, he helped me kind of, it changed the way I approach things as well.
Oh, it's funny how that goes, because I know I always speak on, we've got a couple athletes that I don't want to say we're challenging or difficult, but they helped us change our approach to our coaching tactics. And those athletes are, I think, the most valuable athletes for me as a coach, and I think it's valuable for every other person that I coach thereafter. It really helps modify and manifest. And we're never done being coaches. We talk about all this all the time, which is why we go to the IYCA stuff, and we bend down to perform better, and NSCA stuff. And we always try to improve our understanding and knowledge. But alone, professionals aren't going to help you do that. It's going to be athlete feedback. And it could even just be athletes telling you indirectly or directly sometimes, hey, this is working, this isn't working. You need to modify. This is great. This isn't. You can help me better. And then therefore helping maybe people down the line a little bit better too. So understanding that and not being stuck in your ways, I think, is incredibly important, to be kind of an amoeba of sorts. Obviously, we've got some foundational aspects to our coaching, and we're going to dive into that with you as well. You've got the concrete, the base, the foundation that I think is really not as evolving as maybe some of the branches or leaves on the tree. But yeah, and I think that's something that we can always get feedback from our athletes.
Yeah. Why don't we just dive right into that? Why don't you dive right into the foundation?
Yeah, why don't we? Because I think that's a great question. So I pulled this up, Coach, about some rethinking athlete development, and I was watching your presentation on ignition, and I like the idea behind that being kind of the foundation. But can you give us an idea of some of the other like principles that you have as an expert speed coach as to the foundation of what you're trying to teach your athletes?
Yeah, so it's different than what was on that slide, because that slide is more like, that's kind of like all the things that need to be that need to take place or have a part in an athlete's life in order for them to ultimately probably succeed.
Right.
And to me, that kind of stuff is fascinating, because all those things have to be there. And it's like, you guys are in like Hockey Central area, right? I mean, like, kids want to play hockey there. So a kid who grows up near you that has like a super strong desire to, I don't know, maybe play football. If the right football coach isn't there at the right time, and they don't have the right competition and the right friends that are playing football, that person probably could have played football, but is going to end up playing hockey, because their friends are playing hockey and the good coaches are playing hockey, and parents are saying like, why don't you play hockey? You know, like, there's really no football here, you know, or whatever it might be. Maybe they really want to, you know, they may want to play tennis, but if the wrong tennis coach is there in your town, like, it just doesn't work, you know? So all these things have to kind of be in place. And I think that's fascinating to see how everything kind of has to come together for things to work out for people. And I don't know. I don't think we can try to manufacture it a little bit, but when, you know, we have to take all those things into consideration. But I think that stuff is fascinating. Mm-hmm. For me, the principles of speed development are they're more simple than we maybe want to think about it. I've used this slide before, where it's basically you need to put a lot of force into the ground. It's kind of an equation. You need to put a lot of force in the ground, and then plus you need to put it into the ground as fast as possible. So it has to be power, and then it has to be put into the ground in the right direction, which is mechanics, and then you're going to run faster. So those are kind of like the three buckets. The force production, you have to get stronger. So you have to be able to have like a bigger engine. You need to be able to use that engine by putting it into the ground really fast. So those are things like plyometrics and incline running and resisted sprinting and things that are really fast, explosive type of exercises. And then the right direction is all about mechanics. So you have to be able to move in a way that allows you to put that force into the ground in a way that's going to propel you in the direction that you want to go. And those are the three things that we work on all the time. Mm-hmm. And we spend a lot of time working on mechanics because, like I said, you know, that's been a passion of mine. And I think it's maybe one of the most under coached areas. You know, like maybe a lot of us coach that. Like I know you guys coach that, and you know, a lot of IYCA coaches will coach movement. But like out in the high schools or in the youth sports, there aren't a lot of coaches that are teaching kids how to run with good mechanics. So we spend a lot of time on that, and then a lot of people are doing the first part, the force development. You know, they're lifting weights, they're getting stronger. But maybe they're not doing the stuff that's gonna help them use those force production capabilities really fast. You know, so that, you know, maybe they're doing Olympic lifting, but they're doing the Olympic lifting really heavy. So it's like on one side of that power continuum. It's not on the other side where it's like really lightweight, moving really super, super fast. So being able to kind of manipulate those three things, you know, force production, quick force, and mechanics. That's kind of like the foundation of everything that we do, and that's been the teachings of speed development that we've had in the IYCA now for several years too.
Well, I'll tell you, just going back, I don't know if you remember your presentation in Indiana.
Hold on, I think I got something here. This is from where speed and power.
Should we tell Jim a little bit about how we took that picture?
Yeah, I don't think we need to. We snuck
Okay.
into the field house there. The basketball arena was getting some construction.
Actually, found an open door.
I got a video of Frank scoring a touchdown on Indiana's football.
Well, hold on. So let me lead into this. So yeah, we broke into we let ourselves in.
The door was open.
Yeah, it was open. It had some work going. We just thought, hey, we're already in Indiana. We might as well just check the facility out.
Breaking in is a bit too strong of a term.
Right. We let ourselves in.
Yeah.
And then we ended up down on the football field. Somehow, some way, we ended up on that turf too. But this was after your presentation. And, Bob brought this up to me because Bob remembers kind of the impact your presentation had on me, because that was the
Didn't
first.
Stop talking about it. It was
that was the light bulb that ticked for me. That was like I'm sure you've been to plenty of presentations, and I'm sure there might be a handful that, you can really remember. That was the one. That was the one that was like, okay, these presentations will be beneficial to me, and this one specifically. And moving forward, I hope more and more turn that light bulb on. But that was one of the first times you'll ever see me grab a piece of paper and start actually jotting down notes, take my phone out, start taking pictures of slides, because I was like, wow, like this is it. This makes sense. This actually broke this down. Like, I understand this now.
Well, it looked something kind of like this. I remember it's the 40s. It was like almost exactly that. Jim had had them in the start times. Mind you, I had a torn Achilles at the time too. I don't remember that. I was in the cast, so I wasn't doing any demoing whatsoever. But all these guys got up. Then they were doing band resisted runs too. Remember that one? You had a couple of guys sweating pretty good. Oh, yeah. It wasn't this guy, but you had a couple of guys. I
popped my forearm that thing. Yeah,
sweating pretty good. But that was an extremely memorable experience for both of us. So,
it was because you did the presentation, then you did the on field. Usually, I get lost with presentations. I have like that ADD thing where you give me for 5 minutes and then I'm off looking at everything else. But I was like, I'm taking notes. I'm like writing things down. And then when we got onto the on-field stuff, it was like, oh my God. Like, I thought I could go teach somebody how to be fast. Yeah. So let's fast forward to us ending up on the football turf. I was like, let me apply what I just learned here. And it's too bad we don't have the video, because you'd be so impressed with my blazing.
7.240.
He meant to say a 2.740 is what he meant to say. But you would have been impressed. You would have said, look at that form. Look at that nice big first step. Like, everything just
kind of stepped the last 10 yards. So
everything came together on that run. You see what I'm saying about Bob? This is like golf.
I'm pretty sure you guys then told me a little bit about that at the bar after that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think that was.
I think that's kind of where this whole foundation of us being able to sit here kind of started, was that night.
Yeah, it wasn't the run on the field. That wasn't the end of the evening. It was hanging out at the bar afterwards.
100%. We weren't showing you that video that night, though. I didn't want you to break or critique me too much that night.
Now we're closer. Now we can watch that video, huh?
Exactly.
and that's part of the reason why we've been to a couple IYCA events too. Jim, to be quite frank, was your willingness to come over and talk to a couple chumps like us, not chumps, but a couple unknown guys, and just relate and socialize and just chill out. And
I mean, the viewers should know, like, you were sitting at the table with all the presenters. Like, you guys had a table of yourself, and we sent a couple drinks over there, and just thought, hey, we really appreciate the content we got. And you were the first one that came up and said, hey, did you guys send this drink over for me? And you sat down and, we chatted for an hour, and you had an invite down to your facility from there. And I mean, it all rolled from there. And,
let's talk about the IYCA though, because I know that's a pretty big passion of yours, and something that we've been really supportive of and gotten a lot of information, and we've implemented quite a few things from those conferences in our training in our facility. So can you give us a little bit about what the IYCA stands for, and maybe just a fraction or a piece of the long-term athletic development that you guys kind of envision while developing the IYCA?
Sure. Well, before I say that, thank you guys. That means a lot to me that you remember all that kind of stuff. And Bob, it's really cool of you that you're wearing an IYCA shirt. now. Frank didn't want to do that, but you did, and I appreciate
it. He had a medium only. He didn't have an extra large. So.
I had to give my last one away. I wore it to the gym and was a large, and the guys were chirping me about it, so I had to give it to the smaller guy in the gym. You know how it goes.
You got to cut the sleeves off, Frank.
And I get made fun of that too, so I can't even do that. I can only work out in here sleeveless with the lights off when everybody's gone.
Well, I mean, that just means a lot to me that you guys remember all that, because I don't know, to me, that's just what this profession is supposed to be about, is, making connections and finding cool people and, and helping everybody out. And I know that doesn't happen all the time. And, but to me, like, that's really cool that you remember that. And cause I remember it, so that was really cool. So the IYCA, basically the whole reason for the IYCA is to help have more coaches that can deliver, ultimately, by getting educated through the IYCA materials, having more coaches around the world that can deliver exceptional training experiences to athletes. And, just as there are, presenters that, that don't really engage you, there are a lot of coaches out there that are not engaging. They're not good at what they do. And for a long time, I really wanted to say, like, could we just get rid of like the bottom, I don't know, quarter of or third of all these bad coaches in the world, so that the rest of these awesome coaches like you guys can be out there making, spreading, better messages and making more of an impact on who they're working with. And I don't think I'm ever going to be able to do that, because we're going to always have bad coaches that are out there. But the idea of the IYCA is just to basically help more coaches be better, so that more athletes get better experiences and they get better, and they want to be coaches and they want to make a bigger impact on people. Because I really think sports and sports training is a vehicle to help make a bigger impact on other people around you, not just run a faster 40, but it's about making a difference in somebody's life and giving them a good experience. Even if you're not making, like, you're not changing that person's life or saving their life or anything, just giving them that good positive experience is going to change them in a positive way. So that's kind of been the impetus for everything that we've done in the IYCA since I took over.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we've had a couple of great experiences in Wixom at those conferences, and believe wholeheartedly in the IYCA foundations and philosophies and principles. A couple of us have certifications, the high school strength and conditioning certification for myself, and a couple others have some different ones. So we certainly invest in the IYCA because we believe in really almost everything that it produces. I know you've got a couple different publishings, Jim, Principles of Athletic Strength and Conditioning, that people should definitely look into as well. And again, we just really appreciate all the insight that goes into, and a lot of the work that goes into running conferences, publishing materials, and spreading the word. I know it's not easy because there's a lot of nonsense out there, but a lot of the stuff that you guys are producing is unbelievable. The one thing that I've heard you say before that's part of this, and maybe you can help us explore the long-term athletic development a little bit further, but the one quote I've heard you say is, you can't microwave an athlete. We've talked to a couple amazing coaches that train Olympians from Windsor. Kurt Downs, I don't know if you have heard of Coach Kurt Downs, but we had him on the podcast a few weeks ago, and his philosophy was slow cooker, not barbecue. And when you say you can't microwave an athlete, immediately that made me think of Coach Kurt, who is Brandon McBride's coach, who's a Canadian national record holder in the 800 meter and ranked number 4 in the world right now. So this guy, I mean, he's obviously really, really, really credible. And he's got the same attitude towards athlete development as what you do. Would you mind just maybe sharing a little bit on how to develop younger athletes? We do a lot with some preteens and teens, and people want things really, really quickly. Would you be able to just shed some light on that quote?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think there's just this delicate balance of getting kids better quick enough that they buy into what they're doing, but getting them to buy in long enough that they can actually kind of meet their or achieve their real potential. So yeah, we have to do some things that they see like are helping them quickly, so that they feel like, okay, there's a reason why I'm doing this. But that's all in an effort to get them to buy in so that they can stay into the process longer. I see a lot of parents, and I'm a parent of 3 kids that have gone through different sports. And when you're a parent of a young athlete who's either doing okay or not doing okay, whatever, they're right there on the edge, you start thinking like, my kid's going to quit this sport because they're not good enough, and their friends are going to make fun of them, and are they going to have the confidence? And I just got to get my kid better this weekend. Like, he's got to make that jump shot, or he's got to hit the ball and or score a goal, or whatever it is. Like, he's got to have a little success, because they're almost subconsciously looking for that kind of that ignition. Like, they want to keep the kid going, so they look for that quick fix by going to practice the sport more, and they just want to work on their wrister, or they want to work on basketball jump shot, or hitting the ball, or whatever it is. And I'm not saying those things are bad. Those things are good, for sports, but they're looking for this quick solution to something. And then when they get a little success, so if the kid does have a good game that weekend, then they think, oh, see, it worked. We're for that, rather than saying, okay, that worked, now the kid is hooked, now let's develop like the whole base, and let's turn this kid who can make a jump shot into an athlete that can now do everything on the court, rather than let's just keep practicing the jump shot, and by the time the kid is a sophomore in high school, all they can do is stand there and make jump shots, but they can't guard anybody, they can't get past anybody. They have a very limited game. And you see this in all sports, the kids that have the really good skills at an early age, they tend to rely on those skills, and then pretty soon all the other kids start catching up to them, and they become better athletes. And then the skills for those kids, those late bloomers, the skills come on later after they're better athletes, and now they've got it all. And the kids who only have the skills but aren't good athletes, they get passed up. They can't keep up anymore. So I guess the idea is we have to keep the kids hooked enough, but get them involved in as many things as possible so that they become good, well-rounded athletes, so that they can ultimately achieve their potential down the road. And there's a great study that was just a couple years back that looked at the world champions in a bunch of different sports, and they looked at the world champions and then the people who weren't world champions but were pretty good. And what they found was the people that achieved the highest levels of success actually chose to spend their time on that one sport later in life than the other people who didn't achieve the ultimate success.
Yeah.
But before they chose that one sport, they put more hours into doing lots of different things than the other people put into just that one sport. So they were playing all sorts of different things, and then at about 14, then they picked that one path and they went on. Versus you see so many people now, and coaches like are demanding it. Like, if you're going to play soccer at 6 years old, you're just playing soccer, or hockey, you're only playing hockey. You can't do all these other things. And the research is showing that long term, that's not what's going to help athletes achieve, the maximum potential.
I was looking at a study, actually, I don't know if it was the same study, but it looked at NCAA division female soccer players. And the majority of those female soccer players didn't start specifying into soccer until the age of 14 or 15. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, overwhelmingly is suggesting, especially with female athletes, right, where their development happens a little bit earlier, that to me is suggesting that the 10,000 hour rule of becoming an expert in something may only apply to like violin or music or maybe dance, where it's super, super specific. But if you're talking about athletics in general, soccer, if you're playing soccer or you're playing baseball or you're playing basketball or volleyball or whatever it is, it's like being an athletic is being athletic. You can get 10,000 hours in, if that's the number, in a variety and multitude of ways. It doesn't have to just be that constant grind of playing soccer indoors all in the winter and in Michigan and Ontario, and then outdoors in the spring and fall and in those same locations. So I think that's a pretty fair point there too.
Absolutely. I think we see that a lot over here with hockey, where like hockey is, dad was a successful hockey player, has his kid, and it's like, no, we're playing hockey, and it's hockey, and it's only hockey. And then, like you said, you get that 14-year-old kid that decides to put, the soccer ball down and the basketball down. And he says, you know what, I am a good hockey player. I'm a good athlete. And then he concentrates on hockey, and you just watch him blossom in the next few years.
Yeah.
I was telling Bob earlier, I had a little discussion with my daughter's academy soccer coach, where he thought he owned the kids, right? He was like, every kid that's in this academy is going to be a soccer player. And I had to explain to him, like, no, this is because, we get a lot of that long-term athletic development, philosophy from you, and it was like, and I had to explain to him, like, no, this is just one avenue we take, this is just going to be a few months out of the year. And then it's going to be tennis. It's going to be soccer. It's going to be basketball. It's going to be baseball. And he, I had to pull a day away. I had to pull a day back because we had a basketball practice, and he was all upset that he had to adjust whatever because we had a couple kids missing for basketball. And it's like, hey, this is just a little small avenue of what we're doing here. She's 10,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I get it. And I've seen it with all my kids, and it's hard. And as a parent, most parents don't know all this stuff. So they're just trying to do what they think is right for their kid. And usually what they think is right is like more of the same thing over and over again. And, I don't blame parents. You're trying to do what you think is best for your kid. But that, I think that's where we come in. Like we should be out there, like trying to educate more and more parents. And, that's difficult because those parents are getting inundated from all sides, with information. And, they're always going to look at like, well, if I want my kid to be a good hockey player, I'm going to look at who's a really, really good hockey player in our area. And that doesn't always mean that they're getting good advice, from somebody who that has done it, the right way. So it's a challenge, but I think we all it's something that we can all kind of help people with.
I think even coaches, I think we have to have a long talk with coaches in this too, because I think a lot of coaches, it's like, no, we expect them to be here for this. We have dry land training when we're not on the ice. They have to be involved with all these different things just to make sure they have that roster spot come September. And it's like, you're missing opportunity throughout the year when you're not on the ice to develop into a better athlete. So I think not only parents, I think there's some, old school minded coaches that could probably use a good lesson or two too.
I don't even think it's old school minded. I think it's new school minded. I think the old school minded coaches back when we were playing, it's like, hey, it's okay to miss a hockey practice for a basketball practice or a basketball game. I did it all the time.
Yeah.
But the new school is, hey, you can't miss this for this because then you're going to be benched or you're not going to have that spot on the power play or whatever it is. So I think we have to get past this elitist mentality.
Yeah.
And it's got to be more, hey, this kid's getting better at doing something else, which is going to be beneficial probably to him being on the power play at some point. If you can make a layup, he can bury one top shelf from outside the crease probably, right? Versus somebody else maybe that isn't getting that same exposure.
I don't know if Jim understood that hockey term.
What did you just say there? He lives in Michigan.
Of course he
does. Of course he does.
He was talking about putting the puck at the top corner of the net. Yeah. These hockey guys, they use some of the weirdest terminology. I don't get it either, Jim.
See, what's funny though is like people from Ontario. People in the United States call Detroit Hockey Town,
right?
Because there's so much hockey here. But people in Ontario think Detroit's like, oh, that's nothing compared to what we have. So yeah, I know enough about hockey that I was catching like a little bit of what he was talking about.
Okay. I'm born and raised. I still don't get half the stuff that they say. I'm like, whoa, top cheddar? Whoa, I didn't see no cheese on the ice anywhere. Wait, what?
They're just making stuff up.
Let's talk about, see your T-shirt there. Let's talk about the newest move. You just put a Instagram post out about an endeavor that you're going to be exploring now. I don't know a whole lot about the background about what happened at Total Sports, but we've got Impact Performance. Tell us about that. What's happening next in your chapter?
Yeah, so I've been at Total Performance since 2002. Less than a year ago, a hospital system purchased us, and the idea was to grow this huge. Well, the whole COVID thing just threw a wrench in everything. I mean, everybody, I think, especially in certain areas, like it just threw a wrench in everything, and they were just no longer able to offer our programs anymore. And I quickly, I kind of saw it coming and said, it's time for us to make a move. So my whole staff and I decided that we were going to start something new. We put together a business plan, got equipment. I mean, the amount of things that have come together for me over the last couple months has been amazing, and the number of people that have helped, kind of behind the scenes to make some things happen. And we were doing a ton of outdoor training all summer, and the idea behind the name was, as we were discussing like all the different name options, just like when you guys were figuring out what the name, using the word peak and all that. Actually, Peak was one of mine. I really liked Peak Performance, but I didn't want to steal it. But
we appreciate you.
I wouldn't have minded stealing it, but that is yours. Peak and some of these other things, they all sounded really good, and Impact was on there. And my wife, she said one night, she was like, you get all these messages sent to you saying, oh, what an impact you've made on my kid's life, or you've made a big impact on my career, or what an impact, this and that. And the name of my podcast was The Impact Show for a few years. And she said, like, that's it. Like, that's the name. Like, that's what you are about. And that's what you want it to be about. And it just hit me. I was like, that's right. That's like, it just makes sense. So I don't know.
Made an impact on us. So
well, there you go. I appreciate it. But you can see
right again, honey.
Hey.
Wives are always right?
If you look,
you're listening.
If you look at the A on here, and then you look at the A on the IYCA shirt that Bob has.
Yep.
We made sure.
Yeah.
We kind of.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, we kind of put those together because they're together finally. For a long time they have been kind of separated, especially for the last year. It was like, you can't do IYCA stuff, while you're doing this. And I thought, like, okay, it's time to bring these things together and kind of make make it all one. So nice. It turned out really well the way they made the logo too.
So do you got a facility that you're going to be working out of that we can come check out when the borders open again? And
yes, right now we have to do a lot of things outdoors because in Michigan, I don't know if it's like this for you guys, but there's not a lot of things that you can do indoors. So we do have a spot, we've got equipment, we're ready to go, but a lot of what we're doing is still outdoors and with lots of safety precautions. And we can bring things in and out, but I think in a couple months things will be quite a bit different. At least I'm hoping they will be. But yeah, we've got a spot, and we'll be able to start organizing the next IYCA summit when we're kind of allowed.
Yeah, perfect.
When we're allowed to get together, you guys are allowed to come over the border without having to quarantine for 2 weeks when you get home.
Yeah. Eventually, hopefully that's the case. I know we were doing some outdoor things for probably a couple of weeks. We got ahead of the curve. None of the other gyms in town were able or willing to do the outdoor thing, and we were doing awesome. I think we had one rain day out of like 2.5 weeks that we were operating outdoors, and actually it might have even been longer. It was like 3 weeks outdoors. Yeah, we're now back inside the facility with obviously some protocols in place, and we just had a bylaw passed a couple of days ago that as of tomorrow we have to wear masks indoors for coaching. The athletes don't, but the coaches are going to have to. So constant moving target that we have to hit, but we're we're adaptable and we're ready
punches.
to try to aim at that new target, whatever it is. So.
Yeah, same with us. It's like, okay, I have always, most of my life, liked having kind of a plan, but over the last few months, I've realized this isn't my plan. I can't make the decisions right now. So each day, maybe something's going to change a little bit, and I'm going to roll with it. Probably like you guys are too.
That's exactly what it is. Every couple of days, we're sitting down. We're like, no, we got to adjust this. We got to change that. Then bylaw passes, and it kind of changes everything. And yeah, there's nothing. Everything's rolling.
Adaptability is a form of intelligence, I think. So as long as you.
That's why you're the head of the ship.
Yeah, I think so, buddy. Well, listen, Jim, we're gonna wrap up here real shortly, but we got a speed round. We like to always do this at the end of our shows to kind of dive in. We've prepared a few questions that are, I don't want to say surprise questions, but they're questions that you definitely were not privy to. There's not going to be anything like MSU versus UM, like kind of questions. We won't throw those kind of curveballs at you without preparing you first. But one word or one sentence answers, unless you want to elaborate a little bit more. But we'll go a little bit quick and see what you come up with here.
Okay.
All right. So who is your most influential role model or mentor? We did talk about this, but if you have anybody else that sticks out?
And it has to be one person. I'm going to forget a lot of people, but Mike Gittleson was huge. And I mentioned Walt Reynolds. Ken Manny has been a big influence on me. And a lot of my employees have been a big influence. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention John Frappier, who created the Frappier acceleration sports system years and years ago, and really influenced me a lot as well.
Nice. All right. Fastest 40 time you've ever witnessed?
It was a kid from Michigan Tech who broke a 4.3. He was so fast that he was a track guy, but he played football in college, and he was so fast that they would have him return kicks, but he wasn't very good at catching and doing those things. So one guy would grab it, would catch the kickoff, pitch it to him, and he'd still get like the 50-yard line before anybody would touch him because he was so fast. So that was probably the fastest that I've ever trained and witnessed, and I think it was a 4.29 or something like that.
Wow, that's
I've had a bunch of guys run 4.3s, which is pretty awesome to watch as well. But that was the fastest one.
Nice. All right. Then I don't know if this fits into that same hole, but most naturally talented athlete you've ever worked with. We're talking like freak shows. He brought the term up. He's like,
who's the freakiest athlete? Who's the freakiest athlete? But it's sometimes, you mean freakiest. But who's the freakiest athlete you've worked with? Who's like that guy you're just like, wow, size, power, speed, like this guy?
Oh man. There's been a bunch of them. I guess somebody that I want to at least bring up because he kind of had everything. There's a guy named Tim Shaw who maybe during like the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge you may have seen him because he is dealing with ALS now. But he played at Penn State. He was a linebacker, and then he played in the NFL for many years, and he could literally do anything, like, and whether it was like going out for a run or whatever it was, he could do it all. And then there was another kid that when I was a college strength coach, his name was EJ Harrelson, and now he's a college basketball coach. I've never seen a kid who would win every single thing we did. No, for 2 years straight, he didn't lose anything. We could go out and run 2 miles, he'd win it. We could do push-ups for a minute, he'd win it. We could do max bench press, he'd win it. He would not lose for 2 years straight, and it was really awesome. And you're gonna like this, Bob, because that team, it was at University of Detroit, went into triple overtime with Michigan State in basketball, and with like 3 seconds left in triple overtime, they inbounded the ball to this kid, and everybody else is dead tired, and this kid got it, dribbled the whole length of the court, went round people, layup, time ran out. They beat Michigan State in triple overtime, and it was that kid who. And I felt like that was everything. That's why I did all that stuff for that moment.
Nice. So at that moment, you're cheering for University of Detroit. Sparty can take a back seat.
when I was at UAD, everybody took a back seat. So that's how quick it changed. Yeah, because it's about the people you're working with.
That's it. That's it.
All right. Burger or pizza?
Oh man.
So usually this question's taco or pizza, but we understand Detroit's a little bit different, and it has to kind of be burger or pizza.
Well, Mexican Town.
Well, I guess Mexican Town is there too. Okay, we can put taco in there. We'll give you 3 options. So
my kids and we always go burger or burrito, and so I was thinking this was going to say that if a taco is included in this, it's a taco for sure. Yeah. It was my favorite food. In here, I think I'm going to have to go with pizza.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I love.
You're not much of a burger person then.
No,
definitely note that next time we go out with Jim. No burgers.
No burgers.
I like burgers too.
All right, last one here. Favorite football team. We'll say NFL team. Yeah. Favorite NFL team.
Favorite NFL team. Gosh. Well, I mean, I hate to say this, but like I have to be a Lions fan, but
how come everybody says it?
I know. I guess I'm a Lions fan.
It's like Jets fans. Jets fans are like, I hate the Jets, but they're my favorite team. But growing up, my favorite team was hands down the Pittsburgh Steelers. I loved Franco Harris and Terry Bradshaw and the Steel Curtain and Mean Joe Green, and that's what that was like my love of football at the time, and I still remember writing book reports on all those guys. So I got into them way more than I get into the Lions, and it was a little bit easier to cheer for them because they were winning all the time.
Right.
I'm a Lions fan too. I don't admit that to anybody, but
a lot of people from Southwestern Ontario are Lions fans, obviously, because it's so close. But
you're not Argonauts. You're not Argonauts fans.
Oh god,
it's different. Like you can have a CFL team and an NFL team. Actually, we had an ex-CFLer, a local guy in the gym today, helping us out with a few things, and he played for Hamilton, and then he played for Saskatchewan. So for a lot of his career, we were just following him around, hey, you're playing for Saskatchewan, and we're Saskatchewan fans. We're playing for Hamilton, and we're going to Hamilton to watch games. We're wearing black and gold. We're Hamilton fans. It's just kind of the way. Like I said, you cheer for the player, cheer for the person.
And that's my problem. I'm so hardcore into fantasy football. I could care less anymore. I just want to win my fantasy football. My favorite NFL team is Buck City. And that's my fantasy team.
Nice.
But we should tell you this. So Andy was the guy that was in the gym today. He actually owns the record for the most one-handed catches. He just broke Odell's record.
In the NFL or in the CFL?
He just overall,
Guinness World Records. If you got a chance to check it out, most one-handed catches in a minute. It's on YouTube. It's pretty
okay.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. They got 2 CFL quarterbacks throwing to him, and he's just But he said, what did he say? He was on our podcast a couple weeks ago.
His measurement from look at those palms. I know they're big.
It was like 11 and a half from pinky to thumb. 11 and a half inches from pinky to thumb.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
When we would see him, you'd see him, he'd be at home in his off season. You go to slap him 5. His hand would be so big, he would just give you 2 fingers and a handshake because it was so big. But wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jim, thanks so much for your time. We're getting definitely up over an hour, so we don't want to keep you too long. Awesome to see you again and chat with you, and can't wait to come check out Impact in Michigan when we get a chance to.
You got to do it, and then I've got to come up and visit you guys too.
That'd be amazing.
Anytime, yeah. Actually, we're kind of thinking about putting together our own little
summit,
not IYCA conference, but something to do with speed and agility, or something along those lines to help some coaches and to help some local athletes out. So when we get that put in place, if the borders are open, we'll definitely reach out, and if you're available, we'd love to have you down here. And
we could do an IYCA event in Toronto, maybe, or something. That'd be fun.
That'd be amazing.
Cool too, yeah,
absolutely.
I know there's a ton of Ontario folks that are IYCA supporters and coaches, so maybe we'll make that happen soon.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
that would be wonderful.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, again, thanks so much for your time and expertise. I know a lot of our viewers will take a ton of golden nuggets out from a lot of the advice and information that you gave out tonight. And we really do appreciate your time. We know how busy you must be with the new opening and everything. So thanks very much for coming on.
My pleasure, guys. It's been an honor. And it's great to see you guys again and hang out a little bit.
Yeah, same.
Absolutely.
Can't wait for some beers next time. Should be good.
Thanks, Jim. I really appreciate it, man. It's great to see you.
Great to see you too, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, cheers.
Thank you.
Take care.
That was awesome.
That was good.
We're blessed,
really
man.
Good.
We're blessed that he came over to our table when we sent that beer over there.
I think so. That was like the ignition.
It was.
Right? That was the ignition.
Was.
So
you know, you've been to the facility twice?
Yep.
Right. I've been there once, and you know, I was going to bring it up when we were talking about it, but I knew he had kind of moved on, so I didn't know which direction to go. But when we talk about long-term athletic ability or development, just go to the facility he ran since 2002, and they had soccer pitches, they had baseball upstairs, they had they had the hockey ice, they had
strength.
There was absolutely every single sport you could think of. There was something in that facility that you know, and there you go. The proof was in his pudding right there.
Yeah, 100%. And I think speaks volumes about who Jim is and what he stands for. And certainly, I think a lot of what we do, like we alluded to, comes from Jim, the IYCA, and all the other guys that were part of that Speed and Power Summit too. Right, that was one of the first groundbreaking conferences that we went to, and we came back with like our minds blown, 100%. And that really shifted a ton of what we do, and it's still the bricks and mortar of how we continue to train.
100%. And I think that was why we got so excited, and we're so excited for our viewers, because it's like, hey, you guys get to see a guy that had a lot of influence behind why we are and the success that we've been able to have within our community. And you know, you get to see a foundational piece of the philosophies and the ideas and everything.
Yeah, I can't wait to share the snot out of this too. So
it'd be awesome.
Check it out. We got the YouTube channel, the live YouTube channel that will be recorded. We're going to break this down into chapters and stuff too. So definitely make sure if you are viewing this right now, we're going to have some recorded versions of this and some clips of this to send to you all via the newsletter and on our social media. So tune in for sure. Lots of valuable information.
Yep.
Ended with a high five, baby.
As
well
usual.
Done. Good job.
Great work.
PCast. We'll see you next week. We're going to have another amazing guest on, another speed specialist, this time from Toronto area. Kitchener-Waterloo area. So we're going to be talking speed. We're going to be talking track speed again next week, and football speed, linear speed, athletic development stuff with that kind of a guy that's got some local roots too. So
absolutely.
We're going to be able to dive in with him and share some good experiences and some good stories, hopefully.
That'll be fun.
So, all right. PCast out.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.